All right, this is Mr. Dresch, and I'm going to be working through you with the first lesson here of Unit 1. This first lesson is actually going to be over 3 days, so it's broken up into chunks. And this first lesson also actually is going to be dealing with some algebra skills that are needed for geometry. Now, this particular lesson, some of you might have seen back in 7th grade and probably 8th grade, but we know with the closure, things just kind of happened and may not have gotten through all of that. So as we approach this here today, if it's new to you, don't worry, we're going to work through it. If it's not new to you, that's great. Hopefully it won't be too bad and just shake off some of that rust. Now as I work through here, I'm going to be adding in a sticky note that I'll attach to the bottom. That's going to be kind of like some of my blank paper, scratch paper for me to work off with. Okay, so first thing on this is I'm going to be asking you, what does it mean to be a perfect square? Okay, numbers that are perfect squares. Well, 4 is, 9 is, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 169, 196, 225, and so on. Now, 1 is also technically a perfect square. What do we know about those? Why would you think those are called perfect squares? Well, these are considered perfect squares because we can take the square root of these numbers all nicely. The square root of 4 is 2. Okay, the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. Now we continue on there, and the reason why these are perfect squares, 4 is 2 times 2. The square root of 4 is 2 times 2. The square root of 9 is 3 times 3. For every pair of the same number, that makes a perfect square. The square root of 225 is 15 times 15, which is 15. The square root of 225 is 15. 15 times 15 is 225. Just like 100 is 10 times 10. That's a perfect square, and the square root of 100 is 10. So those who've heard about those for years, you may not have been called perfect squares for you, but that's what we're going to be referring them as. Now, with this right here, I'm going to move it down a bit, and then I will come back to that later as some scratch paper. So let's look at example 1. Square root of 144. What number times itself gives you 144? 12 does. 12 times itself is 144. So we know the square root of 144 is 12. If it was the square root of 81, that's 9. 9 times 9 is 81. 25 fourths. Okay, it's a fraction. We love fractions. Sarcasm is hard to hear through remote learning like this. Square root of 25 fourths. Break it into 2 smaller square roots. We know what the square root of 25 is 5, and we know what the square root of 4 is 2. So it simplifies down to 5 halves. Example 3. Okay, 4 out front, that 4 is just going to get multiplied by whatever the square root of 49 is over the square root of 16. Well, what is the square root of 49? Square root of 49 is 7, and what's the square root of 16? 4. So 4 times 7 is, now just multiplying fractions, 28 over 4, and 20 over 4 reduces all the way down to 7. Or another way to think about that is 4 over 4 reduces first to 1 over 1, and 1 times 7 is back to 7. Those are your elementary fraction skills. Back to elementary, middle school, working with fractions, okay? I'm going to pause it there, so then we're going to get to example 4.